The barrel of the officer's gun hovered inches from her face. His knuckles were tight, his eyes sharp beneath the brim of his state trooper hat, staring her down like she wasn't human. The flashing red and blue lights behind him pulsed against the dark Virginia highway. But in this moment, everything else was still. Cold, silent. Her hands were raised, unmoving, palms open. She didn't flinch. She didn't beg. Her jaw was clenched, her eyes locked on his. He was shouting something, maybe a command, maybe a threat, but the rage in his voice swallowed the words. To him, she was just another black woman out too late, driving a car that looked too expensive, holding a stare that made him feel small. Then from behind the patrol car, a voice cut through the night like a blade. "I'm recording this. Don't touch her." The officer's stance broke. His arm twitched, his breath caught. And just like that, the entire night shifted. It was a little past 11:30 p.m. when Belle Monroe pulled out of the secured lot behind the Northern Intelligence Briefing Center just outside Quantico. She had spent the entire day in back-to-back classified briefings on a cyber attack that could have crippled half the East Coast. Her brain was fried, her body sore, but her posture stayed sharp, like always. That's what came with the badge. Her black Lexus sedan slid effortlessly onto Route 234. The highway nearly empty under the glow of overhead lights. The Virginia night air was cool, crisp. For a moment, the silence felt earned. Belle's mind was still looping through encrypted files and threat matrices when a sudden burst of flashing red and blue lit up her rearview mirror. She blinked. No speeding, no swerving, no traffic violations. Still, the cruiser behind her didn't pass. It stayed glued to her bumper. She exhaled through her nose and eased onto the shoulder. No panic, no questions, just another night in America where a black woman behind the wheel of a luxury car raised eyebrows, and sometimes guns. The door behind her opened slowly. Heavy boots crunched gravel. The officer took his time, approaching like he owned the pavement. She adjusted her rearview mirror. White male, mid-30s, big build. Sunglasses at night pushed up onto his head like he was playing a role in a low-budget cop show. His nameplate read, C. Riker. The beam of his flashlight hit her window before she could even greet him. She lowered it halfway and kept both hands on the steering wheel. "Evening, officer," she said calmly. No response. He just chewed his gum, eyes dragging across her face like he was looking for a reason not to trust her. "License and registration," he said, sharp and dry. "May I ask what I was stopped for?" "License, registration." His tone didn't change. Neither did hers. "Sir, I'm reaching for my purse in the passenger seat." She moved slowly, deliberately, and handed him not just her ID, but her FBI badge. Riker didn't even look at it. He squinted and let out a mocking chuckle. "FBI, huh?" "That's correct." A pause, then, "Step out of the vehicle." Her brow tightened. "On what grounds, officer?" He moved his hand closer to his holster. "Suspicious behavior." "You haven't explained what's suspicious." He leaned closer, the flashlight now almost in her eyes. "You ask a lot of questions for someone sitting on the side of the road." Belle didn't blink. "I'm not refusing. I'm just asking for protocol to be followed." He smirked. "Lady, you think flashing that badge means something out here? You're just another mouthy driver to me." Then bang! His hand slammed on the roof of her car. The sound rang through her chest like a shot. "I said get out." She didn't move, didn't flinch. Her voice dropped, cold, controlled. "You're violating federal protocol. I suggest you stop." He grinned wide. "Oh, you're one of those." And just like that, his hand rested on the butt of his gun, ready. Just as Belle cracked the door open, calculating every move, another cruiser pulled up behind Riker's. Back up. A second officer stepped out, bigger, bulkier, and just as hostile. No nameplate, no greeting. He walked up and stood behind Riker, arms crossed like a wall. "Problem here?" he asked. "Refusing to comply," Riker said without looking away from her. "I didn't refuse anything," Belle said, her tone sharp. "Ma'am, step out of the vehicle," the second officer ordered. "Ma'am," Not agent, not deputy director, just ma'am. She exhaled slowly. This wasn't about procedure. It wasn't about the law. It was about control, about her skin, her gender, her authority meaning nothing to men like this. Then from the side of the road, clear, firm, came a voice. I'm recording this. Don't touch her. Riker turned, gun still in hand. Bell turned just enough to see the man. Early 20s, hoodie, phone raised high. Steady hands, brave voice. You sure you want to do this, officer? That's a federal badge. I got it all on camera. Riker's stance cracked. The second officer shifted. Bell stepped fully out of the car. Her voice cut through the night like glass. Put your weapon down, now! Riker didn't move. I am Deputy Director Bell Monroe of the Federal Bureau of Investigation, and if you don't holster that weapon this second, you'll be detained by your own department if internal affairs doesn't get to you first. Far behind them, distant sirens echoed. Backup was coming. Riker blinked. His hand trembled. And just like that, the man with the badge was no longer in charge. Riker didn't even notice the other squad cars pulling in until the command rang out behind him. Riker, drop the weapon! He hesitated, too long. Two officers rushed him, grabbed his arms, and yanked the gun from his hand. He thrashed once, red-faced, shouting, You can't do this! She was resisting. One officer cut him off. You're the one in cuffs now. As they led him toward a cruiser, Bell didn't move. She turned to the young man with the phone. You saved my life. He lowered the camera. No, ma'am, you saved your own. I just made sure the world could see it. Minutes later, the scene swarmed with law enforcement, but not all of them were here to help. Lieutenant Sandra Torres stepped forward. Clean uniform, stern voice. She nodded at Bell. Deputy Director Monroe, are you injured? No, Bell replied, but we have a serious incident on our hands. We're aware. Internal affairs is on their way. But it didn't take long for the cracks to show. Officer Riker's body cam? Disabled. No dash cam footage from the second cruiser. Torres looked uneasy. There's some missing data. Convenient, Bell said coldly. Then came the leaks. That night, a clip from the incident surfaced online, clearly filmed from the civilian's phone. But moments later, a second version appeared, edited, twisted, made to look like Bell had reached for something. Anonymous account, private server. The source traced back to inside the local precinct. Someone wasn't just protecting Riker. They were framing Bell. And that meant one thing. This wasn't about one racist cop. This was about a system built to protect men like him, a system that had done it before, a system that thought it could do it again. By morning, the headlines were everywhere. Black FBI agent threatened at gunpoint during routine stop. Deputy director demands justice after viral video shows abuse of power. But Bell wasn't waiting for the press. She was building a case. Fast. Inside the FBI field office in Arlington, she stood over a table filled with complaint files, internal memos, and redacted reports. Her team moved like a machine. Holt, Santiago, Mitchell, all trusted, all silent, all furious. Riker's record? She asked. Mitchell slid the folder forward. 4 excessive force complaints, 3 misconduct reports, all dismissed. One of them by his captain, Alan Briggs. Briggs is the same guy who showed up at the scene, Santiago added. They've served together over a decade. Bell's jaw tightened. They covered for him, again and again. Holt spoke next. And it doesn't stop there. The footage that was edited came from a precinct server. Someone tried to scrub your credentials from the system the night of the stop. They tried to erase my clearance? He nodded. If that stop had gone a little longer, he might have seen your badge as fake. A silence hung in the room. Then Bell spoke, her voice like steel. This isn't just a cover-up. This is organized corruption. The next move was bold, in public. Bell launched a formal investigation, not just into Riker, but into the entire precinct. Internal Affairs Chief Wendell Price was called in for questioning. He arrived with a smirk and left with a federal subpoena. By the end of the week, 2 officers were arrested. Briggs was suspended, and the DOJ officially partnered with Bell for a full-scale corruption probe. This wasn't a scandal anymore. It was a war, and Bell Monroe was leading it. Bell stood at the podium in the Justice Department's main press room, cameras blinking like 1,000 watchful eyes. The room was packed, journalists, agents, citizens, all waiting to hear what the woman in the headlines had to say. But Bell wasn't here for headlines. She adjusted the microphone. Her tone wasn't angry. It didn't need to be. Her calm was louder than rage. "I was pulled over," she began, "not because I broke the law, but because someone believed I didn't belong where I was." She let the silence stretch. "When I showed my badge, it wasn't enough. Because this problem isn't just one officer. It's a system that allowed him to exist, to grow, to believe he was untouchable." A murmur moved through the room. "But that ends now." She looked directly into the cameras. "In partnership with the Department of Justice, we are launching a full federal investigation into institutional misconduct, targeting not only law enforcement abuse, but corruption within juvenile detention systems nationwide." She paused again. "One last moment, one last line. No badge, no title, and no system will shield those responsible from justice." She stepped back, didn't take questions. Outside, agents moved fast. Files were being pulled, warrants signed. And somewhere in a quiet shelter in Delaware, a teenager named Derek Sims, once lost in the system, watched Bell on screen, eyes wide. She had kept her promise. The fight wasn't over, but for the first time, it had truly begun.